Classes in session. Welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. Guys, we are in the home stretch. This is it. Season 7 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Stu and Stefan. Stu, before we even start, give me your number one highlight of Season 7. Don't be giving me any I need a highlight.
The highlight. Well, one, Willow didn't cut her hair. Again, the awful cut she got in season 3. No, season 4 where she had like the little like up wave. I'm happy it stayed long.
Pixie wave.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Conversations with Dead People was a great episode. Also, Helfrick was back.
Helfrick.
You know me, I love Helfrick.
Lovely. She is lovely.
I think that actress Callie Rocha is fantastic, and I would love if she could come on the show and I could talk to her.
Okay, I'll find her. I'm on it. Helfrick. Yeah. Call me up. All right, Steph. Highlight.
As weird as it sounds, Dirty Girls, because Faith is back. Faith is back, and she is amazing, and she's reformed, and it is awkward between her and Buffy, and then the whole 4-episode arc with her, and or 5 episodes, 5-episode arc with her and the Scoobies. That's absolutely my highlight. Or the monologue that Buffy has at the end of Bring on the Night, which is just
the Bring on the Night one where she's like
completely destroyed, and these like there might be internal bleeding. She's like, "You're right, we can't stop it. We can't." Like, and she does that. It's so good.
And right before, because I always go to the last episode and that monologue. But you're right. That was what right before when they go in. He's like, 2 men go in, 1 comes out. Yeah. It's Thunderdome.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna fall in the mouth of hell and it's gonna choke on me.
Yes, I like that. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna look up so we can read it online.
Yes.
All right. So we break into this season, and we have potentials all over the place. So many potentials, and we have no idea what's going on. Right? Within that first episode, you watch people get killed, but you see that these potentials are being drawn to Sunnydale. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, those crazy guys with the alphabet eyes.
Crazy guys with the alphabet eyes. I did love. I like some of the potentials.
Some of them.
I mean, like, yeah, I liked Indigo. Indigo was great.
Yeah, she was great. Bye.
I liked Felicia Day. She was also really good.
She was good.
I also really liked, and I can't remember the one who played Amanda. I liked as well. Sarah Hagen. I really enjoyed. But I wasn't a huge fan of like them coming from all over the world, and like it just felt. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it out loud. It just felt rushed. That's it.
Yes.
Like I would have preferred to spend if they're going to do an 8th season. I would have preferred if we had more time with these people, because it was a lot to expect a viewer to care as much about these new characters to make the end of the season impactful, where you see a lot of them die.
Right.
And you're like fighting for them. So when Clara Bryant dies, or Molly dies, you feel bad because she's like this. She didn't have any power, and she's sort of thrown into this training and boot camp with no hope of living.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. But like, yes. Dirty Girls again. Do you want to say, I'll take a shot? Do you like to say it again? But like,
monumental episode.
I think it was a lot of expectation to introduce so many characters with so many individualized personalities and backstories and what they've given up and what they're expected to do, and then be like, oh, BT dubs, you only have another like 15 episodes with them, intermittently, not completely, and then you're done. And if they were doing a spin-off, I don't know about that, but like did not care.
So they did get a lot more in depth with the potentials in season 8, which is the comic book form. I won't get into it because we're not going into season 8. But I will say that like 2 things I noticed is we had more of a character arc with Felicia Day's potential Slayer Vi than we did with Xander, putting it out there. In the X amount of episodes we had with her.
She's not horrible.
No, but like when she in the last episode in Chosen, when she is out there just with knives taking everyone out, and she was the most afraid potential. She was the one that was nervous. She was mousy. She was Willow and Buffy and them back in season 1, and then for her to snap and just be slapping, Indigo and saying, "Get up! This is nothing." Like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But something I thought about, because I'm like, okay, so Kendra was the Slayer after Buffy, and then we had Faith, and clearly no one was really paying attention to them until they were chosen. Were they? Is there like a football draft of like when a Slayer dies, then your
That's
Slayer
it.
is chosen?
This is
Like, I
my
don't.
problem with the potentials. My problem with the potentials are how many there are of the same age.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't quite, that was my biggest issue coming into it, was the idea that, is this an endless stream of women, but
Hmm.
they're all the same age and they're all being drawn there, but like Kendra as a potential was raised by Watchers, but none of these other girls are. And
Yeah.
Buffy was never picked up until she was actually a Slayer. That guy came like there's a lot of inconsistencies there. I like this idea that there's this lineage, but I would have liked the lineage to be more well thought out. Let
Yeah.
me
100%.
put it that way.
Like, I wonder if the reason that Kendra was trained, and this is just us as our own writers putting stuff to the stories, filling the holes. I wonder if the reason that Kendra was trained by the Watchers was because of the prophecy of Buffy dying. Like, they knew at some point the Master would rise and Kendra would have to be the next Slayer. But it's a random choice. So it doesn't make any sense for them to be like, we're going to raise her from infancy to be the next Slayer, just to
Right.
find out that she wouldn't be the Slayer. It's not something that they don't choose the next Slayer. The next Slayer is random in all potentials. That's where it makes no sense. Like, and also, if they're all the same age, was Nikki Wood like a teenager when she was chosen and then just lasted as long as she did, or was she an adult? Because
That's what
when
I'm
she's,
saying. That's also a
yeah,
problem.
there's some things that
Um,
make no sense.
I also have this question. I don't know if I've answered it before, but okay, so Buffy dies, a
Hmm.
second Slayer gets called, you get Faith. No, sorry, you get
Kendra,
Kendra.
yeah.
Kendra dies, you get Faith,
Hmm.
right? This is where I think the problem lies. Because I don't think there should have been a Faith.
Because of
I
Buffy.
because having the two Slayers is different. Because when Kendra died, there was still Buffy.
Yeah, but
She
I guess
she was
I
still
guess
there. So because Buffy died the second time, shouldn't there have been another one springing up?
Well, it also it makes you wonder. Like, I guess that part of her is already released into the ether, and then the cycle starts again. But like, how dead do you have to be? Because Faith
Well,
was legitimately brain dead, to
well,
the point where they never thought she'd wake
Faith was
up.
brain dead, but Buffy was dead at the end of season 5. Shouldn't there have been a Slayer to take her place then?
Yeah, I see. Like, this is a thing, and this is
Right?
the one thing that I is the fact that, okay, so Buffy dies in season end of season 1. She like drowns for like
5 seconds.
less than 5 minutes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then Kendra's called.
Right.
But she's revived. So like the idea that there's one girl in all the universe or all the world that has the powers of the Slayer, like, does that go? Because it's a supernatural gift that they're given when
Hmm.
the next Slayer dies. So how did she retain the power if Kendra
Of a
also has it
Slayer. Yeah.
Well,
of a
I
Slayer?
think that
And
question.
then
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
then Kendra dies and Faith is called.
Sure.
So like then again to Stefan's point, Faith does die. Like
Yeah.
like they said that like she's basically brain dead, and
Hmm.
she like coded on the table a couple of times, which means that she was dead medically.
Yeah.
Enough of it to be so like the next Slayer should be called if Buffy's dead for a minute before Kendra was called. But again, like this
Oh,
idea that they brought all of these Slayers in, what metric of measurement are we or like what map do they
Yeah.
have where it's like
yeah.
these are all the potential Slayers? And I know they like, and this is the thing about these TV shows that I can't stand when they throw in witches and they're like the
Yeah.
witches figured it out,
They
and
figured it
you're like,
out. I got
Okay,
it.
well,
Where are the
were
witches
there
been
no
for
witches before?
the last
Yeah.
6 seasons?
Yeah, where have they
Exactly.
been? Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
Also, this like council of white witch women who have been watching the Watchers, like,
I would have
where are
loved to have met
they?
them earlier.
Oh,
Bring them on.
they should have been a
No,
figurehead from season 3 on. Like, it makes no sense to just be like, yeah, we have this weapon. It's failsafe, and just in case the writing goes bad, here you
the
go, Caleb
Watchers
snap.
were
Like,
watching you, and we were watching them, and so we were. I'm like, woman,
what?
I can't. That should have been more. That should have been more. But okay, so yeah, first of all, because that's a cool answer. You know how Faith doesn't really die, but she's brain dead. But if you keep her
Mhm.
alive, I mean, they've kind of done that in other movies and other TV shows so that a new person doesn't get called. Because if you can keep the good guy in a stasis,
Yeah.
then no new guy can get called. And then you can just sort of keep her. And that's actually that can be a strategy. So I get that. But again, Buffy died twice. There should have been 3 Slayers.
I think I
There should
think
have at least been 3.
I agree. I think that their justification was that her
Mystical.
her mystical like uh pulling out the Slayer power and calling someone new was already severed. Like, yeah, you can keep your powers because you had your powers when you died. You can have your powers when you like live again if you can. Because again, when she comes back from the grave, you'd think that she would just be Buffy, not Buffy Summers Vampire Slayer. It should just be Buffy the girl being pulled from the earth. It doesn't make any sense for her to have powers then either. Like, there are some inconsistencies that are just are too difficult to notice because again, why, you're right, what is the metric? Like, if only Buffy and Faith can feel the power of the scythe in their hands, how are
Yeah.
witches knowing how to find potential slayers? And if potential slayers exist all over the place, does that mean that it's sort of like a Black Widow complex where it's like women are brought into this establishment and trained just in case they're the next slayer?
That's what but it can't just be that because you just pick up all the girls.
And how do
All
you
the girls come over to Buffy's house.
exactly,
Like, I don't
exactly,
know.
and how do you explain to a teenager's parents, hey, I've got to steal your daughter because there's
Yeah,
men after
exactly.
her?
That's
Like,
a fantastic question. Where are all their parents when
yeah,
they all moved to Sunnydale
is
from
it like a Harry
But
across?
this
Potter
is the
spell?
question. Exactly. We learn all
One girl
about,
comes from Japan.
Yeah,
but we learn all about these, like, again, like, where are their passports? Who signed them
yeah,
out of there? And I guess, like, working in travel, like, has me asking these, like, very, like, big
yeah,
questions. Like, who was
How
the
did
parental authorization who allowed you into this fucking country?
yeah.
Like,
Like,
how did this strange man, like, being
listen?
Giles, like, legitimately, like, bring people?
you
I
work
I don't
just
know.
with
It's like
fucking
kids.
order
you're
ready.
basically trafficking slayers.
Well,
Like,
that's
Yeah,
what I mean.
that's
Like, each one of us works with either traveling students or working with kids. And the idea that there isn't like more than one Watchers Council like head office, like there are like 12 head offices for the company that we work for. It makes no sense that to be like, oh, the one's down. I guess all Watchers are out. Everyone,
yeah,
you're
no.
done. You're gonna stay
everyone
off that
comes from,
Teams
like,
message.
England.
You know what they could
It's-
have done? Look, we go into the second episode beneath you. They could have skipped that episode and focused it all on the Witches Council. I would have liked that.
Yes,
yeah,
I
yes,
would have liked if you're gonna pull me out of anything interesting, can you put me into something that has value later?
yeah.
Because beneath you, I don't even want to talk about that stupid. First of all, I feel like they already did it. I felt like it was regurgitation, but I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. Same place, same time. Scariest demon on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
oh, that
Oh,
was, sorry, that was another really
100%.
good episode too. I
That
like
was,
that
I
episode a
hated
lot.
it. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. It was
Hate it,
terrifying. Terrifying.
No,
guys.
no,
Like,
but it
and
was
that
a
was,
good episode for Willow.
it was
That's
a
why I
great
liked it.
episode for Willow, but like, but
Great
that was,
episode. Willow.
people were talking about this episode particular because of like, how far can we go on
Far.
TV?
They
Like,
went
and
far.
they used this episode as a reference. It was disgusting and scary.
For
Like,
those
it's
who don't
not,
haven't seen it yet, there's a paralyzing demon who paralyzes you, makes but it was also because people can normally see him, so that was confusing because she kind of put that spell on herself so nobody could find her. They
Mhm.
paralyze you, and then he slowly slivers off chunks of your skin like strips,
and
and
eats
then
it.
eats it.
So people kept finding these skinless bodies thinking Willow had done it. and even she
She
was
likes
getting
to
scared.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, Willow thought she did it at some point. I thought that was interesting too. You do
Yeah.
something horrible, you get taken to a bad place, and then you start to question your own sanity. I thought that was, quite
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna throw something out controversial.
I like
Hmm.
it.
I
I know you.
honestly think in this season they had no place for Anya and no storyline for her, and
They
she
Yeah,
no,
should have exited in like when she went back to being mortal.
yes.
Like
Yes.
yeah,
in what was it called? Helpless or help something like that? What was it
yeah.
called?
Selfless.
Selfless?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Selfless was episode 5. I think that's when she should have
It should have been
exited
done. I
for
Written by
that.
agree.
Drew Goddard. It was, again, Drew Goddard is one of the best writers that they've ever had on Buffy. He came in
Listen,
season
that
Yeah.
was a
7.
and that would have been a great way for her to go out.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
great episode. It was a great
Yes.
episode for Anya. It was a great episode. The fight scene was good. I always liked Anya better as a demon anyway.
Wait,
Like that would have been
are we saying, Stuart, are you saying that in Selfless, she should have been the one to be destroyed and not Halfrek? Or are you saying she should have
No,
just left?
I think she should have left. She got her
Okay.
yeah,
life back.
Yeah.
She was able to like start a frat. I think the emotional I don't think you got to see the aftermath of her making a decision of like taking a wish back and
Hmm.
yeah.
Hoffren
Taking.
taking it out on Helfrich,
There we go.
and then making her mortal. Um,
Well,
I think
because,
that should have been like a wake up call, being like she doesn't belong in the world anymore, in the
yeah.
world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But like they just kept her around and were like beating a dead horse. She wasn't a comedic. Um,
No, she
she
really
wasn't a
wasn't.
comedic uh,
Presence.
like character anymore. Her storyline was not tied to Xander, and also like when her and Spike hooked up, I was like, this is literally just to cause drama and give
Hmm.
both um, Anya and Xander something to talk about
Yeah.
because there's nothing there.
Well, even
Yeah.
And
Buffy at one point in the
yeah,
episode says, "Why are you here?" And she's like, "You're
She
here because
does.
you're
She
scared."
articulates
Yeah.
that. Why are
yeah,
you? Well, that was later when she's getting pissed at everybody,
Yeah.
but
Well,
because
because
then
like
we
they
go
added
into
Andrew and all the other people, and it's like, yeah,
oh
why
yeah.
is Anya here?
Again, we add these people for what purpose? Why
Mm-mm.
not use those episodes to go back into some of the potential stories? Why
Yeah.
not use those episodes to delve deeper into those girls' stories? And part of me thinks, guys, I'm not going to lie, part of me thinks there's always been a feminist show, one woman, Slayer, yada, yada, yada. But you got to keep the boys interested. So you got to keep guy characters somewhat, it can't just be
Yeah.
all focused, right? Even though Andrew, I don't know who
It,
he was
it,
keeping interested,
who is he
but
helping?
it still was a part of that where it really should have shifted, I think, to it should have been so much more women. Could you
Yeah.
imagine if season 7 had really focused on the Witches Council?
Hmm.
The potentials, the backstory of the potentials. We heaven forbid we skip over episodes like him, Dawn, and the goddamn quarterback.
Okay, so here's the thing. As
I
much as I
felt like
liked
that was a reversion to season 1.
that was
it
the only
was.
episode I found Dawn somewhat tolerable in.
I liked that episode. I will say I do like that episode because I've mentioned this before. In this episode, Buffy literally says, "No one is worth dying for," and it's kind of her way of saying herself, like, "I don't need a man. I don't need to be a part of a man's life. It's not my story. It could be mine." But I do agree that, like, let's take Felicia Day and let's make an episode entirely
It would have
outside
been great.
of the Buffyverse
Yep.
and just
Yep.
go through her life and what it was like to leave her family behind, be attacked
Yep.
by the oh god, what are they
Bringers.
called? Bringers, thank you.
The bringers. Yeah.
Have Giles show up and grab her.
Yes.
Explain to her what's going on. Like we explain how her family let her go, or if a spell was cast, something, because it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. It's like you can't write this huge like sort of Hail Mary moment and be like, oh, it is what it is. Like you just can't.
I agree. Stu?
I was just thinking when Stefan was talking, because he's right, you can't do these things. But also, what you said earlier is also something that I was thinking about. Like, you have the three characters. You have the demon world, which is Anya, getting ready for the first evil to be on Earth. You have the witches, which is like Willow, who practiced, who is rehabilitated by these witches in England, would have
How?
connections to them.
Yeah.
You have the Slayers all here. So you have the Watchers Council finding potential Slayers. All of these people could be joining forces to go against the first evil. But also, and more importantly, to dust this off, where the fuck were the bringers in seasons 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah.
Where the fuck was the first evil after
Well, I
that
don't.
goddamn
Okay,
episode where
wait,
Jenny
wait, wait.
Calendar played it to perfection?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where
Oh,
were
that's
they?
Am I the
Where
only
were
one
they?
who thinks that it should have just been Jenny? Like,
I
okay,
wanted it to be Jenny,
okay, the
but
CGI
instead we had the
monster,
overacting of a few people.
the
because
CGI
we do
monster
know
that
that.
shows
Okay,
up. Good
yeah.
lord.
Okay. Wait. When did? Okay, so we're gonna be talking about the first evil that gets. Now they say Buffy gets brought back to life. That's why the first evil gets all uppity and has the ability to do what it's about to do because they've never tipped the scales of balance of good and evil before. But when does the first evil try to kill Angel? What season is that?
Season 4, season 3
Season
episode.
3.
It's the
Season
one
3.
where they're
It's the
walking in
Christmas
the.
episode.
Yeah, it's the Christmas episode.
Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why? You're right. There were bringers then.
Yeah.
What
There
the
were bringers then.
There were
Did they
bringers
go
then.
away?
Why did the first evil get so uppity then and was able to do that? And then all of a sudden, the guys with the crossed out eyes, what, they hibernate?
That's
It
Did they
was
just stay dormant underground? But like they look like they're human. At least
Are they only
were
allowed,
humanoids.
I guess the argument would be like, are they only allowed a certain level of push? Like this full on assault, they can't take on the on assault because the balance of good and evil
Hmm.
needs to stay the balance of good and evil, and the door's never been opened, and yada yada. They just want to get rid of Angel.
I have.
By the way, Angel poses problems too because Angel has oracles. Why does nobody else have fucking oracles?
Oh my god!
But
Don't get
this
me
is
started
the
with the
thing.
oracles.
It's like
The powers that be. Where are those in the Buffy universe?
So I will. Okay, so I will say that Wolfram and Hart does know that the first is happening because they give Angel the
Yes.
amulet at the end of season 4. So
Right.
Lila knows what's going on. There's a whole document paperwork. It's like,
He brings it to Buffy, yeah.
brings it to Buffy. But what's interesting is that Jasmine also attacked LA, and the way Jasmine was working was through the TV, and the way that they were able to write that in that it wasn't affecting Sunnydale was that there was a power outage. So when all of a sudden all the lights go dark, I believe in Never Leave Me. It's not Never Leave Me.
Yeah, I
me.
know.
Empty
With,
Places. When everyone's leaving Sunnydale, and all of a sudden light goes out, that collides. That is connected to the episode happening in Angel. So there are some things, but you're right. Like I just feel like you have this in Angel. You have this overpowered prophecy machine and all this power in LA, and they're like, oh, the first, huh? Yeah, I guess here's an amulet. I don't know. Good luck. Like it just, yeah.
Oh, the first.
But you're also expecting your viewers who are loyal to Buffy the Vampire Slayer to also watch Angel, to understand what's happening. And like, well, that's fantastic. And like, because we're Gold Star kids, we watched it as well. The issue is that none of that lives within the Buffy universe. And again, like, this is the issue with like all the Slayer storylines being like deepened in the comic books when you got zero in the actual show.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get these moments where the girls are talking, being like, I left my mom to take care of my little sister and we were on food stamps. Well, does she not wonder where you are?
Yeah.
When Sunnydale is being evacuated by all of its inhabitants and all of your friends and your kind of like future slayers are dying around you, like, does no one leave to go home? Like, where's these girls' free will?
Where are they going?
Like, where's the free will for them to be like, I'm going to board a bus and leave? Thanks so much for this, though.
They tried. Then they got knocked out.
But they tried. Didn't they try to take on the vampires themselves and then they ran? I can't remember the whole series.
No, they tried to run. One of them tried to run.
they were getting to know one of the potential slayers, and it turns out it was the first in disguise. So it was
Right.
already manipulating them, and then another one ended up
Oh, from
committing.
Lizzie that girl.
Yeah, that girl from Lizzie McGuire. She
Yeah,
ends
yeah,
up committing,
yes.
which again is just demoralizing and taking down like their excitement, I guess. And then they're trying to train them in the graveyard, but it's just not working. So finally, it's just it really does seem like a lost cause. But like I feel like if I was a teenager in this situation where I've got people in on the inside, people on the outside, vampires, bringers, all these people, and I see Buffy, I'm like, I'm just gonna stay with her because she knows what she's doing. Like,
Well, some of them do.
But they vote her off the island. So
Well,
clearly they don't believe her.
we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to
Yeah,
that.
But
good
like
lord.
this is the thing. It's like, and that girl, like I will say again, that girl, Lelaine, who played Claire, I want to say it's called Claire, whatever her name is. Um she's only 2 episodes. So again, there's nothing to have the viewer, the actual person who
Yeah.
has to invest emotion in the show, to
Mhm.
care enough about her for that to be hard. For it to be like other than the surface of like, oh my god, it's so suppressing. If it was Willow, I would be like, I would be like, oh my god,
Yeah.
we need to kill the first evil. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe Willow took it to this level. But like, it isn't. And there's a lot of talk about suicide in this season.
Yeah.
Like, it's
But I
like
think
the
here's
first
why.
evil.
But this is the interesting part. The conversations with dead people, I think, should have been not an episode. It should have been a theme,
No,
a more
100%.
consistent theme.
But it's
It's also
something
the
the
only
first evil
episode.
even pushes Angel to in
Yeah.
Amends. Like,
Yeah.
he pushes, like, the first evil pushes Angel to kill them, or kill Buffy, and Angel
Yeah.
chooses himself,
Yeah.
which has that great speech from Buffy.
Yeah.
But I understand the first evil can't actually do physical damage to them in the incorporeal form, but what it can do is
I love that
cause
one.
you
Listen,
to do damage to
but isn't
yourself.
that powerful? Isn't that a cool? And again, I don't think they pressed it as hard as they should have.
No, they didn't.
Because the idea that evil, this first evil, first of all, I hate that. I would somebody come up with fucking like somebody
Yeah.
name it or
Yeah.
something. But anyway, this
We
idea
named
that
Sweet.
evil, this idea that it's so funny because we're gonna go back to the conversation we had before we were on air. The calls are coming from inside the house, and the reason is because it's our insecurities, it's
Mhm.
our flaws, it's our limitations as people that are the bad things. You know, the first evil said, like, I'm drawing upon all of this stuff because it already exists. That
Mhm.
when I push somebody, when I push somebody to commit, when I push somebody to murder, when I push, it's not me. I'm not physically doing anything. I can't. But what's in us, the damage that is in us, the lack of character that is in us,
Mhm.
that's the interest. That could have been such a more interesting thing to talk about in season 7. Forget the demons under the sink or whatever, the
From beneath
burrowing
you it
demon.
devours. Yeah.
Yeah. How about we just focus on that? That is incredibly powerful because we're about to come to what trumps that. I'll never be able to use the word Trump again
Never.
within any sort of
Never.
context.
Nope.
It's just ruined.
Ruined
No.
forever.
Although
It's
I
forever.
have a question though.
Hmm.
So because I've never officially had an answer for this, and I'm curious what the two of you think. When Dawn is at home and she's seeing all the blood and mother's milk is red today and this and that,
Yeah.
and at the end of it we see Joyce, and Joyce says that when it comes down to it, Buffy will not protect you, she'll be against you.
Mhm.
Is Joyce the first, or is that Joyce trying to give Dawn a message?
No, it's the first. 100. Why would
Are
you
we
think
sure?
that her mom? Yeah. Why would you think her mom would say, Buffy already proved who she's with. She died for her one time before.
Because there is a lost script that I know that we all know about, which is what was supposed to happen in the end of the series, which it actually does line up if you
I'm
watch
sorry.
the episode.
Pause. What are we talking about? And why don't I have it?
Okay, so way back
Who do
when,
I
and
have to call to get it?
Stuart
I don't
might know this as well. So what happened is in the original ending of the episode, he clearly wanted to have a lot of more people involved. It has these weird fade cuts, which you never see in normal episodes. It's because they were
Mm-hmm.
running out of time, and a lot of stuff they wanted to add just couldn't be added, so they just cut it out of the episodes. Apparently, what was supposed to happen was, and I could be wrong. It's one of those things from way back when. Anya was not supposed to die. Xander was. It was, but you can't have a happy ending and have Xander die. First and foremost. The second thing was Dawn actually does turn into a Slayer. So what happens is she jumps down into the Hellmouth, grabs the amulet from Spike, and says, "Stronger than a human, but more powerful." Sounds like a Slayer to me. Runs away. Then Spike has to chase her. They are with Xander. They're having a fight, like a literal Slayer versus vampire fight in front of Xander. Bringers are coming, taking out him. Spike says, "You got to save your pet there, love," and then pushes her into them. She's fighting all the bringers. She's being really involved in it. She doesn't see that Xander gets taken down because she's like, "I have power." So it's mimicking what was supposed to happen with Anya and Andrew, but it's Dawn and Xander. And then
Mm-hmm.
the rest of it happens where Spike uses the amulet to take out. But what happens is in the apartment or in the house when she says, "No, mom said to me that when it came down to it, you wouldn't protect me." And Buffy has a conversation with her. So there's all these like little cuts that were supposed to happen. Like you were supposed to see, rather than just Buffy being like, "Ow, mommy," it was supposed to be Joyce and the mayor and the master and all these other people, like an Angel. Like it was supposed to be much more involved of an ending, but they just did not have the time because they only had Angel for
Right.
like a day, and they had to make all these cuts to this episode. It was in the graveyard when Angel leaves, and she says, I'm not getting any older," and he walks away. She turns to see Kendra standing there and saying, "Neither will I." But that, like, it's just interesting stuff. Anyway, sorry, Stuart.
In this episode of Conversation with the Dead People, it looks like Jane Espenson wrote the Dawn scenes, Drew Goddard wrote the Geek Trio scenes, Joss Whedon wrote the Buffy Holden scenes,
Oh
and
my
Marty
god.
Noxon wrote the Willow Cassie scenes.
Why?
So Joss
There's also no
Whedon
Xander.
wanted Amber Benson to appear as Tara, but Amber Benson was like, no. Other storylines that they wanted to explore, but because of actors not being available, was Eric Balfour was to come back as Jesse and haunt Xander.
Ooh,
Um,
yeah.
Callie Rocha was to come back and haunt Anya, but she was
Mm-hmm.
unavailable. She was doing Grey's Anatomy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um, as a result, um, Xander does not appear in the episode.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The only episode that Xander doesn't appear in. And Jane Espenson also revealed that the image of Joyce is the first. In the
Okay.
original draft of the script, Dawn was going to raise her mother. When Joyce appeared, she was to say, "They said I couldn't bring someone back," to which the first Joyce would reply, "Maybe I'm the first,"
Mm.
Ah.
to make it a little bit more um, but it's like basically like it's only credited on the only writing credits they have in this episode are Jane Espenson and Drew Goddard. The rest of them, Marty Noxon and Joss Whedon, decided to forego a writing credit for it, since they were both executive producers of the show.
Interesting.
It sounds insane that you have an episode that's written by so many different people. No wonder it felt so disjointed.
It was
Um,
just like it was a very weird episode because it did feel disjointed, but also it felt a little bit counterintuitive. Like I really liked the scenes with Buffy and
Willow.
Holden. I
Oh
really
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, but I
Me
also
too.
really like the scenes with Willow and Cassie.
Yeah.
I think what kind of was weird to me was that Willow didn't really interact with Cassie. So like for for Cassie to sort of taunt her the same way and really talk about Tara, I understand Amber Benson not wanting Tara to come back as evil, but I think for this sort of scene and the emotional impact they were looking for in this episode, I think they needed somebody closer to Willow, whether it be um,
It had to be
it had
like
to be
it
Tara.
had to be
Yeah,
Tara. Like
it
there's
did.
no way. And just FYI, that's not why. I don't think that's why she didn't come back. By the way, but that's just.
I mean, this is
I
the
don't think she
only
didn't want
like
to come
out
back
loud.
to
It's the only
ruin. I
thing.
don't think that was it. I think that got to be a nice little play about oh, that's why she didn't come back, but I don't think that's it. But that conversations with dead people, this idea, it should have been a slow burn. It should have been incremental. It should have been laced throughout
Yeah.
episodes. It shouldn't have just been all in one. And we're just going to, and that's what they did. It seemed like they put 3 episodes into one. They even had 3 different friggin' writing teams. That
Yeah.
doesn't
I
seem.
just feel like when it comes to the first evil, for such a massive um for such a massive character that kind of overstretches everything, it's sort of weird that we're first introduced in season three, to
And then we
kind of
leave
like
it.
be a catalyst to a Buffy Angel storyline and kind of like push Angel toward his destiny, as he leaves the show at the end of that season. But also, like, you don't hear about it in season four. There's no mention of it from Glory. If Glory
Yeah.
was born in this kind of vessel, it's weird that she would not be a cognizant of an evil or a power that uh,
But
expansive or deep. And it's also weird that, like, in season six, when Buffy is so vulnerable to and so um such like in darkness, that they wouldn't have the first evil try and kill her then as well, because she would be a lot more open to that
vulnerable.
sort of like mental manipulation and
Mm.
kind of
Es-
emotional abuse than she was
Especially,
in season seven, when she became a guidance counselor with no fucking training.
yeah. Especially since for the fact that like at the beginning of season six, at the beginning of season six, when she's brought back, that has already severed the veil for the first to make his move. Like that's it
Right.
already had started. So he went a full year essentially, or
Years. He
they
had
went a
a
full
semester,
year,
a full season.
a
Yeah.
full season without actually acting. Or if they were acting behind the scenes. And again, in season six, it would have been really interesting to have those very small throwaway scenes that have nothing to connect to Buffy, but just of
No,
like women
why?
running in and from the Bringers or the Watchers Council
I
talking about
just
something. Yeah,
I don't
there's
get the throwaway episodes after season one. I don't understand the throwaway episodes anymore,
no,
especially by season seven.
yeah,
Why on earth are we doing episodes that mean nothing to the bigger picture?
hmm,
You have so much amazing stuff that you could have done. I have another question. If there is this original evil, is there an original good?
Well, that's what I think. Though I think that's
Why
what
don't we
the
see that entity?
yeah,
but I think that's the thing. I think that you have this like non corporeal sort of um, original evil. And I think you're supposed to be led to believe the witches are the good, like these
yeah,
kind of like white witches, and
No, there's got to
this
be something
idea of
equally powerful. If we're talking
yeah.
about balance, it's got to be a thing. It's got to be the original good. Did you guys ever
when I'm
watch
saying
Lost?
that I'm talking with a
Yes,
scythe, like when you
Yeah.
see Willow like use the power of the scythe, her hair goes white, which is the first time that you see this
Okay.
in the show.
Yeah.
So I feel like that power is supposed to be it, but I would have preferred. The only issue with that, though, and this is the only, I think this is where you kind of get into a weird, like, angel and devil on your shoulder kind of situation, where I
mm,
think
Yeah.
if they
That's
have
where
an
we're
ultimate
at.
power of good, I think that it becomes almost comical in a way, if not done well. And I think if they had continued from season three, building up the first evil, I think it would have been a lot easier to entrench that like single
Yeah.
source of good. But
yeah.
since
Yeah.
they had waited until season seven to really get into the lore, kind of catch you up on where the Watchers Council was doing, catch you up on what the witches were doing, figure out there's like a bunch of potential slayers running around the world, that we're all going to like congregate in Sunnydale. The fact that First Evil is back, the fact that Spike is back and crazy, the fact that the school is built in the Hellmouth that is
How
certainly
did he
more
get
active
back?
now. It's just there's so much happening. The fact that Nikki Wood's kid is now the principal, the fact that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is now a guidance counselor, she's a university dropout. Like, there's a lot to unpack in this season. A
She
lot to
wasn't.
unpack.
She wasn't a guidance
There's also no
counselor.
money
Like she.
problems anymore. She has no
I
money
just,
problems at all. Apparently, she crawled out of that goddamn grave at the end of season six and had a
listen,
great credit score
you know
and
what?
a savings
Got
account.
that bank
Called
loan.
suspension of disbelief. Willow moved in. She had a job. They worked at the magic shop.
Did Willow work?
Here's
What magic shop? Magic shop was gone.
all right.
Yeah.
I
Here's
guess.
my here. Willow just invents money. She's a witch. Don't worry
Yeah.
about
Did
it.
Right.
Willow ever work? Wait a minute. Did Willow
Witches
Willow
work?
don't need
never
to work.
worked. Willow
That's
has
my
never
number
worked a
one
day in her
reason about
life.
wanting to be a witch.
What?
I
Yeah.
just
Wait.
find, because I think this is true across the board of a lot of shows. Evil, the devil, is, I'm assuming, the antithesis has to be God.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. If evil is if the evil is constantly pushing for chaos, destruction, and death, and I hate man, should not the other side be not out of it? Shouldn't they be constantly pushing for good
Yeah.
Yeah.
and what they because in Angel, when they talk about things like the powers that be, you think the powers that be might be the good guys, but they never fucking do anything.
No. And the
They
thing
don't want
about
to interfere because it's not their job because of free will. But on the other side, and this is just, I guess, a religious conundrum, anyways, you have the other side, the bad guys, who are like, forget free will. We're going to mess with their heads as much as we possibly can and push for as much destruction and chaos and taunt them and bring out their
manipulation.
inner everything. And we have no problems telling everybody we're here. But the good guys don't talk about it. It's like Fight Club over there. Like, we don't talk about it. We don't mention it. We don't push for the good. We have no good guys team. We don't say here we are. We're
Yeah.
here. If you're
White
over
hats.
there, we're here.
It's
You know?
It's
like that. It's just also like I also like in other TV shows where and this one and also like they did it again in Buffy. They mentioned, but it's not like a storyline. It's a mention every once in a while when it's convenient for them. We're talking about the balance, talking
Mhm.
about keeping the balance of good and evil, and making sure it's level because you can't be too evil and you can't be too good. You have to keep a good balance for the world to. But it's never like in Vampire Diaries. It's something that is a core tenet of the show. You need to have that balance. Whereas in Buffy, it seems to be more of a solution to a problem they create in painting themselves into a writing corner.
well, and that's what it happens with. They don't ever say it's we're the good guys or the bad guys. It's like it's not about right, it's not about wrong. It's about power. Who has the most
Yes.
power? People always like love Willow, and she had the most power. Buffy is all powerful, but is it good or evil? It doesn't matter. She's the one with the strength. They do talk about it well in Angel, where Wolfram and Hart, depending on who you are the big evil big bads. But really,
Right.
they are just creating a equal balance between the two so that there isn't chaos. Like, yes, if you need that sacrifice to do this, we will make that happen because that's the balance we need. We need to make sure that nothing goes into chaos. We have prophecies and powers. Angel was a threat to their well-oiled machine because he is a good guy. He is meant to fight the good fight and save the day, and he sees them doing bad. Well, they're trying just to keep things balanced. Buffy is a good girl, a good guy, a good girl, whatever. She is the slayer. So when you have that imbalance of the scales, then chaos ensues, which is exactly who it is. Chaos bleeds, you know?
So
Yeah.
then is the good guy God? There's no God, but it is the premise then the bad are the monsters and the good guys are the humans?
I don't know.
Is
Because like
that it? Is that the good? Is the good us? Is it supposed to be us?
I don't think so.
Because if we talk about the demons taking back over control, I mean that's what the bad guys want. The demons to run across, to take back over the earth because that's what they used to have before the light. And I don't know when we got there and what we did,
Mm-hmm.
but is it us? Is it us? And our free will? Is it us and our strength? Is it us and our unity and what we're willing to sacrifice and is it,
I wouldn't say
and then I
humans.
start thinking about other shows, right? Like
Yeah.
Lost.
I wouldn't say
You guys
humans. I
ever
would say
see it?
humanity.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I
because you're
mean.
right.
Humanity.
Yeah.
I don't
Because,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
just the
Because I was like,
players.
is it,
Humanity.
yeah, it's vampire versus human. But I think it's humanity just because in the sense that like, so many of they talk about this all the time. Demons are shadows of what a real demon is. Like, you've never seen a real demon, Anya says, because they're so watered down, and a lot of them aren't actually there to do evil things. They are just not human. They're humanoids. So it's always interesting to think about that. Like, what exactly is the big bad compared to, the good guys? Like, who are they? And I mean, at least when it comes to Buffy, like, yes, Buffy is a good guy. We know that much for sure. Her and her Scoobies are the good guys trying to save the day. But is it because of the power? I don't know.
Stu, what do you think?
I just think, like, I think humanity are the gray area because it can be swayed either or. So it can be swayed toward good, it can sway toward evil. And I think our free will allows us to do that. So I think that when you have evil, it's always going to use your free will against you, because if it can coerce you and have it become your idea, I think it's a lot more insidious than something killing you directly.
Something so
Yeah,
that's what I think it is.
externally.
It's everything is inside. Everything, yeah, it's power and it's supernatural and all these cool things, but everything boils down to us.
Mm-hmm.
What we choose to do and why we choose to do it, and therein lies the battle.
Yeah.
Right?
I just feel like, I think this season was interesting because it really did, like, the entire season really explored, like, the separation between, like, the Slayer, like, the actual, like, two Slayers, Buffy and Faith,
Yeah,
and everybody else.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of it, they were like, oh, BT dubs, everyone's a Slayer now. Which I think is really interesting, but also it causes problems because if that scythe was there the whole time in Sunnydale in some tomb, why was evil, the first evil, why was, like, the master not trying to destroy it? Because if that is something that could have done.
Yeah, but they say it was hidden. It was hidden from everybody.
Really,
nobody knew it was
again,
there.
like, Willow found it in a matter of, like, a couple seconds. She was like, sat down, looked at a map, and was like, the scythe.
But that's
Oh,
because
no, Angel. Sorry, Angel gave it to her.
But it was allowed to be found. Nobody knew to look for it either. I think
Angel.
But that's what I'm
all
saying.
of
Like,
those things.
if you're saying that the first evil exists and the first good should exist, nothing's ever a secret for many, many years.
But maybe there's no first good. Like I said, maybe the good is us. Maybe there's that's it. The good is us, and we make mistakes, and we trade on power, and we give each other up, and we do this and we do that, and it's always this balance. Maybe that's where if there's good, that's where it is. Because you look at, and I want to get to Bring on the Night before we, because nobody needs to talk about Sleeper. That was boring.
Oh no.
Sleeper again?
No. But Bring on the Night, where Buffy has to fight that first Uber vamp and gets her ass kicked, and which is probably one of the best. Like, and then everybody's seeing, oh my god,
yeah, we're fucked.
If she can't take it, no, how there's an army of these things. How are we ever going to take it? And then she has that great scene. It really is a great scene and a great speech. I'm going to look it up right now. A great scene and a great speech. What was it? Let's see, episode 10.
Episode 10. I believe I could try to recite it by memory, but, like, I might just make an ass of myself.
Episode 10 speech. What do you guys think about that episode?
I loved it. It was the episode where Giles shows up with Kennedy, Molly, and Annabelle, and it's the one where all of a sudden just shows up. Willow tries to do a spell. The first immediately takes her over. Says you only make me stronger.
They do that on purpose, though. It's all on purpose, right?
Yeah, it's so fun. And then the two of them are so fun. But Buffy and Giles are essentially just reconnecting. and they notice that in the tree lot there's a whole group of dead trees, which they realize that if they go underground, whatever it is underground. They find the Turrican, and it absolutely just massacres Buffy. Like, she has no chance to get out. The only reason she gets out the first time is because the sun comes up. Then she goes back to it,
Yeah.
and it absolutely, like, just destroys her. When they finally find her, they're so convinced that she has internal bleeding. There might be brain trauma. There's no, like, we don't know what to do. And she essentially says, like, she has the speech. And if Joanna, you want to.
Oh, Bring On. No, it's not in Bring On. It's on Showtime, isn't it?
Nope. Showtime is the next one where they actually do have that fight.
Oh, they didn't number
wins.
it. Well, what? Yeah, but that's the speech I like. Oh, okay. Well, I can't find it. I can't.
Okay.
I can't quickly.
I can find it.
Do your version, stuff. Do your version. Let's hear it.
She says, "You're right. We can't beat it. We can't run. We can't fight. We can't deny what it is because it." Oh no. Okay, hold on. I got it. I can find it right now. Okay, she says, we don't know how to fight it. We don't know when it'll come. We can't run. We can't hide. We can't pretend it's not the end because it is. Something's always been there to try to destroy the world. We've beat them back, but we're not dealing with it anymore. We're dealing with the reason they exist. Evil, the strongest, the first. And then Jaws is like, I know you're tired. And she's like, I'm beyond tired. I'm beyond scared. I'm standing on the mouth of hell and it's going to swallow me whole. And it's going to choke on me. It's like, we're not ready. They're not ready. And then it just goes into the whole thing. And I love it.
It is a great, because, and going back down to who the good guys are.
Mm-hmm.
The good guys are the people that realize it's kind of a little bit of Angel, because Angel's going to pick up on this thread. It's never over. It's never done. It's never the end. We've never beaten it, and it will always be something else. Are you consistently ready and willing to do what you got to do and to do what you have to make things right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it's like you really see her grow up all of a sudden. You don't see it any other time. You see it right in that moment where she says it can choke on me. Because now, look, this is where we all stand. And that's where I look at it a little bit differently, where I look at it like it's a different theme now.
Mm-hmm.
That it's okay if we're going to lose, if I'm going to, because basically what she's saying is if we're going to die, okay.
We're going to fight.
But we're going to die doing everything we can. And I mean, everybody dies, right? Everybody's mortal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes to an end. The acceptance of that is incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And the acceptance of it, but not the resignation to it, is like, I don't know how many people ever come to that in their lives. Let's be honest, right? Everybody goes kicking and screaming. So, but the acceptance of it and not resigning yourself to it, I think is so powerful. And it just reminds me of the last scene of Angel, when they're about to fight and you think they're going to get smoked. That's how that series ends.
Fred.
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of that same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we do. This is what every person does. And whether it's internal or external, it's what we'll do for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with one thing.
Okay.
In this episode. And it's pissed me off since I watched it.
With which one?
I'm going to say it out loud.
Bring on the Night?
Yes. And it's not anything to do with the actual content of the episode. It's the fucking timeline of the episode. It drives me fucking out of my mind.
What happens in the timeline?
So in Conversations with Dead People, it says it's November 12th. And then every single episode after that is the next day, because they're all sequential.
Right.
And then we get to Bring on the Night, and it's fucking December.
Oh, yeah.
It would have ended November 15th, the previous episode where Buffy realizes
right.
That he sired a bunch of vampires, and she would go looking. It is fucking, like, I was like, I don't understand how it would mean that Buffy just kind of waited, was like, oh my God, you have victims. Put a pin in that. And I'm gonna do other things.
We're gonna circle back around. I can't believe that. You know, you've watched Buffy one too many times when you're like, it was November 10th.
It's just the only reason you know that is because it calls it out. It says it's November 12th, and then
Yeah.
every episode after that is just a sequential the next day.
Right. You're right.
And it drives me insane.
Because
And
when
I
the
went
episode
on Reddit once to look it up, and I was like, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there was a section of time that I missed while like the Watchers Council was torturing Spike. Maybe it was a lot longer than I thought it was. It wasn't. It was one day.
Well, I guess if I think about it, it was written. Never Leave Me was written by Drew Goddard, and Bring on the Night was written by Marty Noxon. Likely, she didn't read his script all that thick because the episode did air December 17th, which is why she's like, "Oh, it's Christmas." I barely even realized it was. Yeah, I think that was just the writers just not connecting.
But
I
that's
get it.
bad. She's the executive fucking producer. That's her goddamn job.
Makes
All
sense.
right. On that frustrating note, we're going to wrap it up for today because we're going to come back and do the final. Guys, I don't even know how to come to an end with this. We are going to do a final season 7 part 2. It's going to end our 37 episode run on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know what I'm going to do with my Sundays. And we're going to come back and we will start at Showtime, which is one of my favorite episodes.
So good. I just watched it.
Oh, before we go, Stefan, where can we find you?
You can find me, SJ Maroney, on Instagram, and you can find Rebel Without a Closet at RWACPOD. It's where we discuss the queer and queer adjacent that turned us into the glitty, rebellious messes that we happen to be. Stuart is one of our co-hosts. Joanna's always on there as an amazing guest, surprise guest host, guest star. It's amazing. We love it.
And Stuart?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Janikon, JNIKON_, where on TikTok I talk about my ridiculous life and tell embarrassing stories. Hopefully you can laugh with me. And on Instagram you can see how perfect I try and make it look.
That is a perfect combination of the two. That is a perfect combination. Guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We will see you next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat station for the last part in this very long Buffy synopsis. We will wrap up season 7. We'll see you guys next week. Dismissed.